It's coming, 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 coming.
Yo, what is going on, Warriors? It's your boy Finicki back with another video, and today we are going to be continuing our Ultimate Guide series with Wraith, the Interdimensional Skirmisher. Yo, if you guys can do me a huge favor and go down and hit that like button, it takes 2 seconds, and it helps the channel so much, as well as it'll boost the algorithm, and therefore more people are going to be able to see how to play Wraith effectively. And trust me, I know how to play Wraith effectively. And I haven't been able to do this in other videos due to the fact that I don't really have the statistical prowess to be able to flex or anything. And this is sort of a flex, but it's more so for you, the viewer, to know that, hey, the person that I'm watching actually knows how to use Wraith and is pretty strong with Wraith. My accolades are as follows. I was the #1 Wraith across all platforms for a month and a half when it comes to kills, and at the current moment I have around 48,000 kills and 17,000 kills as kill leader, as well as I held a world record on console with 33 kills using Wraith to my best of my ability. So, you know, I feel like I know the ins and outs of how to use Wraith, and I hope you guys are ready for it. And without further ado, let's hop right into it. Renee Wraith Blassie is a interdimensional skirmisher and is a whirlwind fighter able to execute swift, deadly attacks and manipulate space-time by opening rifts in the fabric of reality. Wraith is from the planet Typhoon, and if you are familiar with Titanfall, even if you aren't, this is the main setting for Titanfall 2 campaign. So there's a lot of ties between Apex and Titanfall, and this happens to be one of the bigger ones, with Wraith being from the planet where the whole entire campaign of Titanfall 2 is come from. So what's the significance of Typhoon as it correlates to Apex Legends? Well, the history when it talked about Typhoon is that it's hosted the number of research and military operations by the IMC. You might be familiar of it, you might have heard of it. It's also known as Hammond's Robotics. If you are familiar with the video that was released with how Wraith had her lore and kind of how she got involved into the research facilities, and by the way, I'm going to leave that in the description below. These research facilities that were on Typhoon, she ended up waking up, and now she is in this state of being able to go through different dimensions, right? And she doesn't know necessarily how that happened, but all she knows is that there's voices in her head, and she's trying to learn how to trust those voices. As seen in the lore video for Wraith, she is actually escaping from one of these research facilities. So we know that Hammond's Robotics can't be trusted, by the way. And we also know that Wraith is in the frontier on a planet called Solus, which houses, you guessed it, Kings Canyon. Now, we may not know exactly how she got into one of those research facilities, but we do know what has happened after, and that is us using Wraith in the Apex Legends games and killing people. And before we get started on the abilities, the tactical, the passive, and the ultimate, I want to talk about how I think that she's had the strongest kit in the game consistently since Season 0. And now I would say probably Gibraltar has taken the cake on that when it comes to the best character when it comes to abilities. I wanted to kind of say the reason why I chose Wraith as a main is because one of her abilities, obviously her hitbox is really nice, and just a lot of influencers, as in like Dizzy and Courage JD, if you guys are familiar with those people, they were using Wraith at the beginning of the game, and I didn't really come into Apex until about 5 days out when the game came out, and so I saw them using Wraith, and I was like, whoa, this is really awesome, this is really cool. I really like their playstyle. They're playing really aggressive, but can get out of situations. I kind of fell into that playstyle anyway, and so Wraith was the perfect character for me, and her abilities line up super well. So I just kind of wanted to start that out by saying a little bit of why I got into Wraith and why I think her abilities are just so strong and will probably be super strong unless they nerf her to the ground, which they're still trying to do. First ability we are going to jump into is the into the void, and it is on a 35-second cooldown, and the description says the reposition quickly through the safety of void space, avoiding all damage. So essentially you go into another dimension and you don't take any damage. You're still able to move, and you can still see the playing ground. Looks like you're able to see the surroundings where there is Watson fences, there's a Watson gin, there is caustic canisters, and there are anything that's on the ground you can still see. You just can't see where people are, unless the only exception to this is if another Wraith goes into the void, you can actually see them in their void state as well. It's kind of funny. To give a little bit more of a description on what it does, enemies can actually see where your little blue trail goes. You only are in it for 3 seconds. Yeah, so this is a 3-second ability, but it is such a strong ability that you have to be able to use it correctly. But once again, they can see in a blue trail that is showing as you are running away or running towards somebody, whatever it is. Also, while you're in the void state where you're invincible, you're not able to open any doors, use any other ability. But what you are able to do, I mean, you're able to still be on zip lines, which is really strong. Other than that, you guys are really wanting to know the meat and the potatoes of this tactical ability. What are the pro tips on actually how to use this? Well, in my opinion, when I go against a good Wraith, or if I'm watching somebody and I know I can kind of tell if they're a good Wraith or at least they're an experienced Wraith, and that is the delay. So there's a delay in between you hitting whatever your tactical ability is, the left bumper, the L1, the Q. There is a delay between you hitting that button and her actually going into the invisibility state. Reason why I say this is such an important trait is because if somebody has the game sense, the game knowledge of being able, if you're going into a fight, you know you're about to take a lot of damage, and then you hit the tactical ability before you even take any of that damage, but you're able to dish out more, or you're able to play it safe, get that information, and relay it to your team. This is the reason why you see Wraith used in almost every single professional match, as well as a lot of pubs, is because of her escapability. She is able to go in as a frontliner almost and get information, do as much damage as they possibly can, and then phase out and go towards the team to be able to give that information of, hey, I hit the Watson for 50, and I know they have a Watson Pathfinder in Gibraltar. So you already are able to see what team comps they are, how much damage you've already done, where they're located, all by using one tactical ability effectively. The last little tip using the tactical ability is it pairs really, really well with your ultimate ability. So being able to place an ultimate, and as you're getting out of a bad situation, you're able to use your tactical ability and not take any damage, and which is really important to be able to place down the portal to be able to drop ship your team out of a bad situation. Wraith's next ability is her passive called Voices from the Void. The description says a voice that warns you when danger approaches. As far as you can tell, it's on your side. I'm not going to talk too much about this ability because frankly there's not much here for it, but what it is it just tells you, hey, whenever you're getting aimed at. That's really all that it really does, is it just tells you, hey, you're getting looked at either with a sniper or someone's aiming at you, or I guess it does tell you whenever you have killed people. It's like, hey, there's some battling that happened here. Well, like, obviously, duh. But it is nice to have whenever you're playing, ranked, or you're in a pretty open spot, and it tells you that, hey, you're getting looked at, and that is nice to know, but it's really not too crazy. Wraith's last ability is called Dimensional Rift, which is her ultimate, and the charge time says 150 seconds, and the description says link 2 locations with portals for 60 seconds, allowing anyone to use them. So her ultimate is something that makes her kit really, really strong, as well as her tactical ability. The first thing I'm going to be talking about actually is the charge time. And so I know it says 150 seconds, but it's something for you to know as a Wraith player in in-game sense, is that at the very bottom, whenever your ultimate is recharging, it at 38% is whenever the portal will go away, will disappear. And that's without a gold helmet, and with a gold helmet it is at 48% as well. So it's something to keep an eye on. Make sure you're relaying that information to your teammate. One thing to remember as a Wraith player is when you are using your ulti and you start your portal, Your teammates cannot go through that portal until you finish it. So you have to make sure that you finish that portal, even if you're getting shot at, and you have to be able to place it, or else your team is not going to be able to use the portal. The portal will disappear completely if it's not placed on the other side. Another reason why I absolutely love using this ultimate is because it is a secondary way of getting out of a bad situation. So say your tactical ability is on cooldown, shout out Respawn for giving me another 10 seconds of cooldown wait time while I'm using Wraith. Anyway, the ultimate ability gives you a 25% speed increase, so you're able to run very fast for 100 meters. And so this gives you the ability of, say somebody's behind you, you're able to use the ultimate and get to a certain spot, maybe behind cover, very quickly if you don't have your tactical ability up. It's just nice. It's your secondary parachute, you know, the one if your first one fails. I would categorize Wraith's ultimate as a dropship ability, and what that means is you're able to have one ability happen and your whole team is able to move from one location to another location. This is similar to that of Pathfinder, except it's obviously a little bit different, but I would say that that's probably the best comparison is to Pathfinder's ultimate. One last thing that I will mention with her ultimate is that you can use her ultimate as a way to engage into a fight and then be able to get yourself out. So with the third party meta of King's Canyon and with World's Edge at the current moment, there is a meta of third partying, right? So if you yourself are also going to be third partying, you want to be able to get yourself out of that situation. So what you should be doing is portaling yourself into a team fight. You're able to go in, kill a few people. Maybe you don't get the kills, it doesn't really matter. You're able to play passive enough to be able to go back to your ultimate, go back to your portal, and then you're safe, right? So that's just something that you can do as an initiation tool, is use the ultimate. Overall, I think her kit is so strong, and specifically if you add in with this ultimate. The last part of this video is going to be us talking and discussing on how I believe Wraith should be played, as well as some changes that I would like to see to her kit. Realistically, if you're going to play Wraith, I would say that you need to make sure that you are playing aggressive, and when I say aggressive, it needs to be smart aggression, to be able to know, hey, we're relaying information, whether you're a solo player or you're playing with duos or if you're playing with threes. She plays the same in almost all of those aspects. You're wanting to get into the fight and then disengage from the fight, more than likely, unless obviously you're doing well in the fight. But for the most part, when it comes to team fights, you should be the initiator. You should be doing damage, a lot of entry damage, and then playing your life. Those are the biggest things when it comes to Wraith. Play your life, engage, do damage. Now, the changes that I would make for Wraith are pretty biased, so take that into consideration. The main one that I would really be changing is this previous patch. She got a nerf to her cooldown on her tactical ability, so it is now 35 seconds every time to use her tactical ability. It was previously 25 seconds, and that is, I felt like, was a pretty strong time. She was able to use it pretty much only one time during a fight, and I felt as though that was a good marker to nerf her in a good spot. She was pretty balanced. And lastly, I would say to take off low profile. Actually, just take out low profile in the game in general. I think it made sense to have it season 0, season 1, season 2, but now that we have kind of gotten into what now we're almost season 5, that people have gotten so much better at the game that they are used to shooting a Wraith, used to shooting a Pathfinder, whatever it is. And so I think that they should actually take low profile out of the game, but that's for another video, another time. Overall, I hope you guys enjoyed this type of video. You learned something new about Wraith and how good she is, and the way that you can use her effectively. If you guys did and you stayed this long, my guess is you enjoyed it enough that you can go down and maybe hit the subscribe button if you aren't already subscribed, and you could hit that like button if you enjoyed it, if you didn't do it at the very beginning. I appreciate you, and this has been your boy Finicki signing out and blasting off. Hope to see you again for another video. God bless. Doses, baby.